All right, we're live. So for everybody out there that just witnessed those technical difficulties, I want to apologize about that. This is how it goes when you're doing a virtual event. But great to be here with everybody. My name is Carson Humiston. I am joined by three amazing women. I think we just lost one, but Hillary, I'm sure she'll be dialing back in. And this is the Vangst Cannabis Career Fair, day 2. Very excited to be here today. And this is building a wellness brand in the industry. And so we're going to kick it off with some introductions. Why don't we start with Jess?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jessica Asoff. I'm one of the founders of Prima. We're a CBD well-being brand, and we create supplements, skincare, and therapeutic body care. And I actually was in business school with Hillary at Harvard. So it's just so great to be among such powerful female founders. And previously, I started a cannabis community for women called Cannabis Feminist. And I've been in the industry for a long time. I'm a daily cannabis user and lover. And so excited to share more about Prima. We just launched in Sephora. We're B Corp, we're EWG verified, and we're really trying to create industry-defining standards for purity, potency, and transparency.
Amazing. Thanks for the intro there. And Kira, can we get an intro from you as well?
Yes, my name is Kira Reed, and I'm the founder of Women Empowered in Cannabis. We are a global community for women working in cannabis. We provide resources, tools, connections, content, and support and events to help bring together women around the world in the industry, from cannabis, hemp, CBD, and now psychedelics.
Amazing. And Hillary's logging back in right now. So when she gets back in, we'll do another intro. But, I think the first question, and one that I'm always interested in, is, we'll start with you, Jess. Why CBD over THC, which seems to be the primary focus of where you are? And just tell us a little bit about the CBD market and, why you were so excited to launch this great brand. And by the way, if people haven't tried the bath bombs that Prima has to offer, I am a big customer. I cannot recommend them enough. So people should definitely order.
Exactly. And we created a Vangst discount code for 25% off if anyone wants to try us. So just use Vangst at checkout. But that's a great question. When I first got my MBA, I moved back to California for cannabis. It's what called to me. I needed to come back to California because I saw that California would legalize recreational cannabis. This was in 2016. So I completely pivoted my life. I moved to Los Angeles and I started this cannabis community for women. And we started with cannabis women circles. I would just get women together. We would use cannabis in a circle and talk about how we feel, talk about the ways cannabis impacts our health. And this really became such a powerful representation of both how far we've come in the industry, but how far we need to go. I also did a show with Snoop Dogg called Queens of the Stone Age, where we gathered women and we all used cannabis together and actually showed the smoking element of cannabis. But what I learned from spending many years on the THC side is that in many ways, the high, the intoxication of marijuana is distracting us on a mainstream level from seeing the plant as a universal wellness tool. What I mean to say is, when you talk to different types of people outside of just the millennial cannabis user, when you talk to stressed out mothers in the middle of the country, when you talk to a lot of people that actually really need the plant and would benefit from the plant, the smoking aspect and the intoxication and the high is distracting. They don't understand the value of that. And so, or maybe they're not ready for it. Not everyone needs the high to experience the benefits of cannabinoids. And so what I ended up doing is I took a big step back, and while a lot of brands like Dosist and a lot of THC-focused brands were just focusing on California, just focusing on the psychoactive, the intoxication aspect of the plant, what we have a bigger opportunity to do is think about the whole country and the world outside of the states that have legalized. And so there, if you think about the California market, there's a much bigger market throughout the whole country. And in order to access that market, you need to, kind of put aside the THC and wait for these states to really legalize. And CBD enables us to really position the plant as a universal wellness tool without the high for a mainstream audience, almost as a gateway. So weed was always thought of as the gateway drug. I think CBD is actually the gateway herb, the gateway botanical, because that you need to start there in order to be ready maybe for THC later on. So we decided as a team to really focus on the non-intoxicating cannabinoids, CBD, the minor cannabinoids, as well as other innovative functional botanicals, almost as a way to open the door for THC.
Amazing. And Hillary too was experiencing some technical difficulties, but she's back. So happy that she's back. So Hillary, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Hillary. I am the founder of Sweet Reason. Sweet Reason is a hemp and cannabis beverage company. We're based in New York and Toronto predominantly. We sell across the states online through drinksweetreason.com, and we're in over 800 stores in New York and California. Our mission is to calm the minds of humankind. And I really got into this, I would say, for very similar reasons as Jess just outlined. I think that CBD is the gateway drug, if you will, to the whole cannabis world and to really reducing the stigma around the plant. When I moved back to Toronto and finished business school, moved back to Toronto and saw that cannabis recreational legalization was on the horizon, I really became obsessed with the beverage opportunity in particular. I think that beverages branded categories in the consumer space. And I think it'll take a really great brand to reduce the stigma in beverage. If you think about it, our society revolves around beverages. Like I still say I'm going for a coffee with someone, even though I don't drink coffee. So I basically just became beverage obsessed. And then I learned about CBD and all the health benefits of CBD. I personally have significant daily bouts of anxiety, and CBD has really helped me. And so I thought it was a perfect opportunity to get into the hemp and cannabis beverage space.
And
today, Sweet Reason has our sparkling waters, which is our core product. And then last week, in exciting news, we launched our evening blend, which is unlike any other CBD beverage on the market. It's the most powerful dosage on the market at 30 milligrams of broad spectrum CBD, but it also has 7 other herbs and adaptogens, all with, like, if not as good, maybe better science than CBD. They all have calming benefits, and it really takes the edge off like alcohol. So we're really excited to offer the alcohol alternatives a space, and people that are looking for alcohol alternatives, something that not only replaces the taste of alcohol, but also the effect.
Amazing. And I want to, I took some notes here. I want to dig in a little bit deeper on some of the things you all just touched on, but really quickly, I would like to talk about being a female founder in the space and what that journey has been like in being a female in an industry that's, we'd like it to be more balanced, but it's very male heavy. So talk to me a little bit about what the challenges have been, what the benefits have been in building your business and being a founder. And Kira, why don't we start with you here and sort of what you're seeing more broadly with the community of women that you're so well connected with?
So for me personally, being a founder, my community is all women. So I can't really speak to that. I'm also not trying to penetrate a consumer market, which puts you in touch with so many different distribution points and packaging and all of the things that you also have to deal with these kinds of issues. And I can't really speak to that. But what I can speak to is actually, I wanted to share a little data with you. Jennifer Wetzel of Lady Jane Branding has been conducting a Women in Cannabis survey. And she gave me 2 points to share. And so I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of insight into that. And one of the great pieces of information we found is that 48% of the women surveyed, or they're showing that 48% of the founders in cannabis are women. So that is an incredible statistic that we are actually almost at 50% founders in the industry. The other thing that she gave me was some information about where our greatest barriers are. And the number one biggest barrier is not being taken seriously. So the second is access to income. I would have pegged access to funding as actually being the biggest issue, but it's being taken seriously. And the third is not getting the respect or credit that we deserve. So these things are perpetuating, they're continuing regardless of industry, regardless of what day it is that we live in. But I think the interesting statistic of the fact that there are so many women, and I would love to see some of these statistics compared with consumer goods and entertainment and technology and bioscience and every other major industry right now. How many of these founders are women? And I think that we're in a really incredible position, especially on the CBD and hemp side, because women can start businesses doing this. We do not need hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment. We don't need massive teams and tons of leverage in order to just penetrate the marketplace. We have an advantage in being able to actually start small businesses and grow them into large businesses. So we're still suffering from a lot of the things that we have throughout time, as long as women have been in the workforce. But cannabis, we actually are starting to see, we are changing the scale. We're changing the playing field for women right now. We do need more access to capital. That is going to be if we can get over that, be damned on not getting respect and everything else. We need that access to capital to really push us over that 50% and being able to scale those businesses up.
And I love that. And I'd love to look at we did a report and we found different findings. So in our Women in Cannabis report, we found that 15% of founders were female. So I'd love to, I hope my report was wrong. So I'd love to compare it with yours. So, regardless, right, what we did find was that even 15% is further ahead than a lot of other industries out there. And so I do feel that this industry is, whether it's 15% or 48%, and I hope it's 48%, it is welcoming to female founders. But I'd love to hear a little bit from Jess and Hillary what your experience has been like, and any challenges or ways that you found it to be beneficial.
Well, actually, Carson, what I know to be true, and Kira, I'm sure you love this as well, is that the cannabis industry has the highest percentage of female executives across all other U.S. industries. So that's actually why I got started with Cannabis Feminist is. At the time in 2016, the cannabis industry was made up of 36% female executives compared to 23% across all other US industries. So it's actually the first billion-dollar industry that could be run by women as it evolves. So it's very exciting. It's also a female plant that we're all, using and touching. And so there's a reason why there's a lot of opportunity for femininity and leadership in this industry in particular. But back to what you said, Kira, it's really interesting. The first point being not taken seriously. That's why, that's the barrier. But I would argue that that's the reason why women have trouble fundraising as well. So if we can tackle that, maybe we can also tackle the fundraising issue. But, I have to say, I've spent a lot of time talking to women, talking to female founders, and there are a lot of opportunities to start nice, small, artisanal brands in the industry. But if we're talking about scalable, large-scale CPG entities that can compete with the, Unilevers and P&Gs of the world, which I know that Hillary and I are really trying for because we want to heal the world. We really need female investors. So we need representation across all aspects of the business, not just female founders, because I've had so many, and Hillary too, like we've pitched to so many investors, and it's hard to convince male investors sometimes, like why women need a facial oil or, skincare products or things like that. And so if we can have female representation across, starting from the top, across investment and operations, and then also leadership, that's what we really need, I think. Otherwise, we're just going to be stuck trying to convince male investors that these products are important. Hillary?
Yeah, I would say I have like a slightly different, sometimes controversial opinion on this subject. I would say being a woman has only been a benefit to me in my career with Sweet Reason to date. I think as a woman, a consumer founder, female consumer founder, you are certainly at an advantage in many ways. There's a disadvantage. The flip side of that coin is whether you like it or not, people try to force you to be the face of the brand. And you might not want that. You might just want to run the business. I just like to run the business. I don't necessarily want to be the face of the brand. I just want to run the business. I don't want to be an influencer. And so I think there's a really unique pressure on female founders to basically become an influencer and hire a president, which I could go on a whole tangent about. But honestly, I would say I don't really know if being a woman has affected me and my success with Sweet Reason. Like, you don't know if you get 100 no's from investors and you get like the 5 yeses you need. You don't know if you would have gotten 10 yeses had you been a man. So it would be, I would say, like unfair for me to blame any negative experiences I've had with Sweet Reason on being a woman, with a couple minor exceptions. I work in, obviously we're a beverage company. That's like a really tough industry for women notoriously, but I think you just like choose the right men to surround yourself with, and the rest is history. So I'm not, it really has not been an issue for me. And if anything, I think the dirty little secret is it actually can be an advantage. And I think it's a disservice to some more disadvantaged communities and minorities for me to say that it was a disadvantage, because it has not been to date. And I know that there are some serious prejudice for other, minorities in the world in raising money and et cetera.
Yeah, I think that I agree with a little bit of what everybody said, right? And I think that also one advantage that we all have, being female founders, to the point that Jess, that you made around women executives in the space. I think that we haven't, I think that when we go out and we recruit, right, I think it's been a huge advantage in recruiting and retaining strong women to the team, right? So I know in our recruiting experience, that's been huge. So many people have said we wanted to join a company with a female founder. So I would generally agree with Hillary. I've never sat around and thought like, what, if I was a man, this business would be to the moon by now. I've always found it to be an advantage, and feel lucky to be part of the space that's been welcoming.
And one more thing I'd add, Carson, sorry, this is just like my favorite topic, but just one more thing I'd add is like, if you spend your time thinking about how disadvantaged you have been, or like speculating on how potentially disadvantaged you have been, like there are so many other things you could think about. It's just not productive. Like I just don't like spend time doing that, So I don't know. I think it's like a lot of it is perspective. I do not mean to negate the fact that women have a harder time raising money. There are fewer female founders across the board. But those are real experiences. That is real data. But like, I don't know, like it just hasn't, personally, I have not really felt.
Well, one thing, Hillary, too, is that I think one thing to add for everyone watching is that it's not a gender conversation. It's really a conversation about what makes an effective business person, right? And then following that path. So historically, many male business people got their MBAs, right? So Hillary and I spent 2 years and we got our MBA. And so it's also a conversation around like what the tools you need and the skills you need and the experience you need to have a seat at the table. If you're at the table, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, but I think it's just doing that work to have that seat at the table.
And I think I think it's cool to see this panel. I've certainly been on panels with people that really have felt that they were disadvantaged. And I think, the point that Hillary, that you just made of saying, of really just taking it head on and being like, yeah, maybe this is a disadvantage, but here's all the advantages that I have and let's go for it. And I also think like capital flows to great businesses. So build a great business. Investors want to make money. And that's at the end of the day what investors are looking for, a return. And so if you're building a great sustainable business that in many cases can change the world, I think you're going to be able to raise money. So I think that's really what people should spend their time on, is how do I build a freaking awesome business, an awesome brand, an awesome business model. And yeah, anyway, I think we could all go on and on about this. Maybe we can do another panel just about this. I think this panel was actually supposed to be about CBD, so we're gonna move back there a little bit. I think a question that I would ask for everybody is, what are the challenges in building a CBD business? I know regulation is one that's top of mind, but if somebody's out there right now, like, I want to start a brand in the CBD space, if you could say what have been your biggest challenges and hurdles in building your businesses, what would you say?
How many should we list? Top 1 or 3?
Maybe 3. I think 3 would, be nice.
Besides the obvious of payment processing, I would say acquiring customers, new customers, and running digital ads, because unlike any other D2C business, we cannot leverage Facebook and Instagram in the same way for running ads and acquiring new customers. We cannot advertise that we're CBD. We have to use vague messaging and a loop around system to acquire new customers from those channels. And it's really frustrating because other brands and other industries have no trouble running ads. And again, we're in a legal space. We're working with hemp. And we can't even talk about our products in an honest way because we can't mention CBD, so people don't know what we're even talking about. And so it's really frustrating. We really can't, we don't have the same tools for scaling via digital platforms. So it's frustrating to not really be able to talk about your products and have to use very unclear messaging to get through to people. So that's just one.
Well, I don't have a CBD business, but the thing that I see kind of from a broader view is exactly what Jessica's talking about. But the fact that we're so gray. There's so much gray area, and the FDA has basically said, it's cat's out of the bag. But if you want us to approve it, it's going to take a long time. So you're better off going through Congress. And we know where Congress is. They're not going to do anything. So we're all trying to build these businesses under gray regulatory framework where we're legal, but we're not really legal. And you can buy it, but you can't talk about it. And it's really difficult to set up a runway when your ads are being taken down, or rules could change underneath you at any time. From the supply chain perspective, when we're growing the hemp, the number of issues on this side, because it just rolled out with no infrastructure, is going to end up in the US causing problems on Jessica's end of the supply chain because we don't have anybody growing anymore. So there's no support for the farmers. There was no infrastructure built to actually create that supply chain. So in addition to the traditional issues we have about building a business, hiring the right people, managing your books, now we have all of this regulatory stuff that we thought we were getting away from with moving out of the THC world, that we're now it isn't as expensive to build a CBD business, but it is just as confusing for the brand and the consumer as well, because you're so limited in how you can talk about it.
Yeah, I think in many ways, like a THC business can be like sort of, I don't say easier, grass is always greener on the other side, but like
more clear.
It's more clear. Yeah, it's all, everything like you're allowed to sell in the markets in which you're allowed to sell. I think from my perspective, there is no like, other than the regulations, what are the issues? Like everything comes back to the regulations. I would like, for instance, there's no problem with like, for us with production, with CBD sourcing, we work with like completely professional suppliers who all have their shit together. Like it is a very professional industry now, way more than 2 years ago, in many ways. But the regulations are, the problems that the regulations cause or the lack thereof are just like so pervasive. It's like bank accounts being shut down and all your money being seized. It's, as Jess said, like the Facebook ads problem. We can't get into any major retailers in the country until the regulations have passed, despite the fact that virtually all of them tell us we will bring your product nationwide the second the regulations pass. So like, how do you raise money when you're just like on that promise, so the regulations are just a fundamental problem in every aspect of your business, of your life. It's something I run into on a day-to-day basis. And it's so sad for the industry. And this industry will not survive and grow at the same pace if the regulations don't pass sooner rather than later, because a lot of people will go out of business because the investors will start to lose faith in the timing of the regulations.
And what's the status? Do we have any sense of when these rules will change? Or it's just, we have no clue?
No, the FDA is not going to pick it up. Congress isn't going to pick it up. So until we have an administration change, there's not even necessarily a hope that it will be put forward. We can't ignore the fact that we are fighting pharmaceuticals. And since we don't have the regulatory framework that they are fortunate to have in Canada, we're just kind of sitting here waiting indefinitely to see if they go the other direction and slam a CVS or, drag somebody through the mud to terrify all of the other businesses. But everybody just lives in a gray area right now. on every part of the supply chain, it's kind of a real mind messes with your head. It really does.
The one silver lining is there's a lot of progress on the state level. And so, for instance, I think just yesterday, New York State announced that they're likely going to allow CBD in food and beverage as of April 2021. And of course, I think the state level progress will help push along the FDA.
Yeah, it's not going to happen in California anytime soon.
And you know, I would argue another advantage for you all is that, you know, there's quite a few barriers to entries to start a business like Hillary or Jess. So, you know, for you guys to be building such incredible products, and ultimately, I think these rules eventually will change. If the businesses that can raise capital and survive this period will be absolute breakout billion-dollar brands. So, I mean, it certainly seems like we are moving in the right direction. All right, this is going by so fast. We actually only have 15 minutes left. So I do want to switch gears a little bit around jobs. This is a career fair, and want to talk a little bit about hiring. And so, you know, some of us here have built out teams and are continuing to build out teams. What do you look for when you're making a hire for your business? And yeah, I think, why don't we start there? What's the experience of hiring for your brands been like?
I can start. So we have a team of 11. We actually have 1 male and 10 women. So talk about gender. And it's really interesting. I think the biggest lesson that I've learned in the hiring and also onboarding, retaining process is that just because we're creating a product around balance and stress relief does not mean that the startup environment is not stressful. I think a lot of times people kind of confuse the product with the culture. And at the end of the day, you know, we're not obviously, you know, smoking weed all day. Yes, I do use Prima all day, but at the same time, the product value prop is not the culture and the environment, because at the end of the day, we're trying to build a super high growth startup CPG brand. And we have really high ambitions and high expectations. And so it's just finding people that are hungry and ready to just put their blood, sweat, and tears into something that, you know, could be huge, but on the day to day, it's startup life. I'm actually sitting on the floor right now in between meetings. And so this is the life, you know, but you choose it every day, and it has its ups, it has its downs. I think it's just about finding people that are ready to come along for a wild ride.
And, you know, and I think those people out there like thrive in it, right? I mean, I'm sure for you, you can't imagine how bored you would be, right? If you were, you know, sitting on the ground in between meetings. I mean, it would be terrible. It would be like, what's the point? I wouldn't want to go to work, right? So
exactly, it lights you up.
You got to find people out, but some people are like, oh my God, that sounds awful. So
some people want a 9 to 5. They want to, you know, start and be done and then go on with their life. And that's definitely not what a startup is. But I would say the lows make the highs even higher. And it's all about that kind of spectrum of experience. Like, the more you give, the more you get. So I definitely think you have the most to gain in a new startup, especially in this new and emerging industry that we get to design and build and create. I mean, when else in history has there been a moment in which we get to come together through brand building and define a billion-dollar industry that can actually transform health and get rid of the biggest epidemic of today, which is stress. So it's like, it's so invigorating, and it's truly like once in a lifetime.
Totally agree with everything you said. And we, you know, I say something at Vanks that has been sort of controversial, but I stand by it. You know, I don't believe in the term work-life balance. I think it's just your life, right? And you prioritize and spend your time how it's important to you. So if, you know, exercise is important to you, right? It doesn't matter if you go on a run at noon or at 10 at night or at, you know, 8 a.m. If spending time with your kids is important to you, it doesn't matter how you do it. It's work and kids and health. Everything should be, I think when you think about them as these very separate things, it's so hard to just live your life. And so I think in startups particularly, like, we will empower you to live a great life, but this is going to be a big part of it, because you spend a lot of time at your job, and we want you to love it. So I'm not on the panel. I need to stop talking. Hillary, what would you say?
You are the panel, Carson. You are the panel. I would say I have like a very simple answer for it. I mean, we hire mostly like beverage people, or we have been hiring a lot of beverage people lately. Our initial hires weren't as much, but we're mostly now growing our sales team, and so they need beverage experience predominantly, because it is very much like a door-to-door sales business. But overall, I think like very simply, I just hire for fit. Like I think it's all about fit. I think if you have a good fit, you can work through any issues and skills. People can build skills. You can't change the fit of someone. Like it's just so hard if they're not a good cultural fit. So
and
that's it.
Kira, for you, as you think, I'm not sure if you've hired people yet, but I'm sure you will. How are you thinking about it all?
Well, we actually have just brought on 3 new people.
My God, congratulations.
Thank you. But I was very hesitant because it's been really challenging because we're such a values-driven company. So it's all about taking care of the women in our community and making sure that the values and the mission are forefront. But one thing that is absolutely top of mind with me is making sure that my team is really diverse. So, and I'm not just talking about race diversity, but I'm also talking about age and background and geography and experience. So I just put in place my new business development and head of partnership, and she's over 60. And honestly, the things that she has brought to the table are wisdom and understanding of things, the ability to figure things out that I just have to push away from the table because I can't deal with it anymore. She's got it done in 2 seconds. She's got incredible ideas. And what I've found is that making sure that I'm really pulling from a pool of wide people that may have different interests than me, that may have different ideas that I do, that is really what's going to continue to make the community feel like it is for them, because it isn't just me or people who look or act like me or my age or background, that we've got voices from all different ranges contributing to what it is that we have here. And I think that, and you and I have talked on my podcast about how you've done that really successfully in your business. And everyone that I have talked to that has really committed to that is so grateful that they started their company that way, because now they've got less turnover, more profitability, and less drama on it, in the employee pools. So that's the most important thing to me, is making sure I've got a lot of different voices and different backgrounds.
And, and I love that. And I think to the point that Jess made around defining the industry, right? All of our companies and all of the companies, really every single company in the CBD or cannabis space is a startup, right? We're all just getting started. And so we truly have the chance to define the space in a lot of ways, including hiring, right? And it starts at your first employee, right? And so totally agree with everything everyone has said. So I have 2 more questions for you, some that actually have been coming into me through the chat. So the first one is something that's very top of mind is COVID, right? I mean, it's actually like crazy that we're still operating in a pandemic. We've thanks to these webinar series, and we had a bunch of them just around the COVID response. But I would love to hear how your businesses were impacted by COVID, how your business responded, how you as a leader had to sort of pivot, and if you had to change your style, and just a little bit about that experience, because it's a crazy time, and I know people appreciate hearing what's going on.
I'll start. It has been really, really good for Women Empowered in Cannabis, because we're acting as a unifier. We have been hosting virtual events with Tokativity under the House of Jane moniker every month. So we're a touch point. We're a place that women can come and reconnect. We have sesh rooms at our events, which they just love because they can come and consume together, which is, it's one of the rare things in our industry that I think when it was taken away from us, we realized how much we miss being able to go to an event, find some people outside, pass the joint around. It's something that equalizes the experience that we have. And so, and it brings forward communication that wouldn't necessarily happen. So that's one of the important things that we're doing. It has brought a ton of new women to the table, and it has enabled us to really be a support for our women during this time. And as far as a leader, I had to take the first 2 months and I basically told everyone, I don't know what's happening. And I personally, I don't know really how to lead through this experience. I don't know where it's going. I don't even know how I feel day to day. So I found that being really honest about the fact that I was floundering emotionally and because everybody else was too, it allowed them to say what was really going on with them. And it has helped me to be a better leader because I lead by transparency and just a reflection. I'm just a reflection of what everyone else is going through. I don't have a unique experience, but I'm saying it. And saying it seems to offer a lot of relief. So I'm continuing with that for now.
Great. I'd say there's never really been a better time to have a solution, a product for stress, sleep, mood, immunity, all of the issues that come with COVID. So, and I'm also of the belief that CBD and cannabinoids help to support the body's immune system, which in part can help to potentially prevent COVID. So with that, it's been really interesting to see the product flow change. So, Bath Gem, which is our Epsom salt and CBD bath soak, became our #1 product, was the first product to sell out on our website on Sephora.com. And sorry, getting kicked out of this workspace. And so that was interesting to see the product change because our skincare products were top contenders, but now it's really about our supplements, our vegan soft gel, and the bath soak, which really is just everyone's way of relaxing. But, there's been major changes. We were supposed to launch in 300 Sephora stores in May. Obviously, that didn't happen, but we were able to launch in August. Consumer buying.
I think we're gonna just roll to Hillary quickly, and we'll pick up on your thoughts once you sort of stabilize here a little bit. Hillary and Sweet Reason experience.
Yeah, I would, I'd echo what Jess said about how there's never been a better time for a CBD brand relevant for CBD. CBD is something that calms your mind, and so obviously 2020 is like the year that CBD is, it's like the year of CBD. Like, so many people can benefit from it right now. But I would say separately, like just organizationally and as a leader, I think any crisis forces you to change your style a bit, probably to be more decisive. There's like a lot of, the world is changing every day, and you sort of have to make quick calls on things you have no idea about and on challenges like nobody has encountered ever before, or it's not been we haven't had a pandemic like this in so long. So yeah, I think it just requires you to be really decisive, really flexible. And I do think it requires you to change your style because you can't some things can't take as much time. I think that's been challenging. The biggest challenge for me has been just, I think as a leader during a crisis, you are need to be the optimistic one. And so from my experience was I felt, and I still feel my team looks to me to be a source of optimism in their day. And that's obviously a lot of pressure on any individual in a crisis or a pandemic.
Yeah, and I think from our end, I'm obviously we're a hiring company, and a lot of our clients and companies in general, right? You were unsure what was going to happen. Is cannabis even going to be essential? They immediately did layoffs and furloughs or hiring freezes. And so for our business, we saw 90% of jobs fall off of our platform in the course of a week. There's a lot of people from banks watching this right now. No one was hiring. And so we feel really lucky that people are hiring now. We had this career fair, and there's 50 companies hiring 500 roles, but there was a period of time where, really nobody was hiring. And we had been on an upward ride for 4 years and 75 employees, and to go through layoffs and furloughs, I think to Hillary, to your point, as a leader, being here's the plan, here's what we're doing, and here's how we're going to get through this. And even if in your head you're oh my God, I hope who knows? You really need to be putting out the face of confidence, and people are out there following you. So I think, from what little I know about all three of you guys during this time, it sounds like you guys did that, and your teams really look up and respect you all. So in our final 2 minutes with that, how would a candidate that, wants to work for your company either now or in the future get in touch with your teams, and what would be one piece of advice for someone out there trying to work for you?
Well, you can find us at womenempoweredInCannabis.com and just reach out through our contact. And one piece of advice, do your homework about the company, share why you think you would be a good fit, and work on the presentation, get creative. There's a lot of competition out there right now when it comes to resumes. And if you can really communicate a clear passion and vision for what you can do for the company, it will go a long way.
I think that's a great answer. I'd probably echo a lot of the advice. You can find us at drinksweetreason.com. If you remember the email, you can email sweetjobs@drinksweetreason.com. And my advice would be to tell us why you're passionate about the job and what makes you qualified for the job, and lead with your ideas.
I think you might be muted.
I think you're on mute, Jess.
All right. Well, I will say, I think you can go to prima.com. I'm sure they have an awesome job page, and I think Jess will echo everything everybody else said. So anyway, we are out of time. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, especially our panelists, for taking time out of their incredibly busy founder days to be here. This will be live on all of their company profile pages on banks.com, and that'll be another place that you'll be able to connect with our panelists. And thanks again to everybody for coming, and have a great day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, it ended.
Thank you. That was awesome.